Hey, you guys. Ras out there here in Singapore. Thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. And as always, you guys, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to listen. For those of you who are brand new to the channel, thank you so much for joining me. This is my little place that I've carved out in the ether where I get to sit down and talk about the things that have occurred to me, the old beliefs that I'm starting now to shed, the questions that I have about the world and the way things work, and as always, observations that I've noticed in movies and TV and conversations and posts that maybe just, give me a little bit extra to think about. Yeah, like I need extra, right? But the point being that I get to maybe consider a new perspective. And when I get to consider a new perspective, the best thing I can do is share about it. So maybe it will help you as much as it helped me. So here we go. I've been watching, right? Across a couple of generations, watching different kinds of people talk about different kinds of a relationship, and the way they describe things really tells me a lot about the way they see themselves and the partner or the person that they're talking about when they, describe a relationship. It could be a best friend, it could be a sibling, it could be a parent, it could be a spouse, it could be a child of theirs. And so when they take the time to describe, I actually really pay attention to the adjectives, the adverbs, the mood in which, the tone in which they say things. All of that really, really matters. So what I found is, though, right, the older generation is much more likely to stick it through and really try their level best and do everything possible, right, before they decide, okay, it's not going to work. Because they come from a different belief system, they come from a different time era. So if you think about the cars and the products and goods and services and stuff that used to be around when they were growing up, let's say, okay? So washing machines, cars, dry cleaning facilities, stuff like that. Back in the day, it was all customer service. Not to say that the customer is always right, but to say that, you know what, I'm going to do my very best to provide the very best service, and I'm going to treat you like a human every step of the way. And that made it a different kind of product. Back then, the products were made to last. You weren't trying to spend a couple $10,000s on a car several times in your lifetime. You wanted to buy one car and you wanted it to last the rest of your life and hopefully hand it down to somebody as you get older, right? That was the point. The same thing with houses. You were buying something that was going to last a while because you wanted a legacy, you wanted to leave something behind. And the same thing also with marriages and relationships. You're going to try your level best. It's why all the older people are very quick to say, you know what? No, that's still your mother. No, that's still your family member. You can't just throw them away and start over fresh. It's not that easy because they come from a different belief system. Back then, you don't just throw things away. Let's think about food. They went to the grocery store and they were happy to pick up apples that were bruised or bananas that were almost dying or whatever, but they were happy to do all of those things because in that phase of life, of history, right, the Great Depression, those kinds of times, they learned not to take anything for granted. You didn't know if your next meal was going to be easy to get to or not, so you made use of every last bit of everything. It's why people ate organs and they made soup out of bones and they, ate beaks and feet and all kinds of stuff, right? But our generation is not like that. We are very quick to throw things away. The minute something has a dent in it, a crack in it, something like that, if it's really, really expensive, of course, we're going to try and fix it first rather than go buy brand new. But a lot of times, to fix it costs more than it would to buy brand new. And so guess what do? We buy brand new instead. We are very picky about the food that we eat. We do not like bruises. We do not like holes. We do not like, dots. We don't like any of those discolorations because then it's not perfect. We're always in search of perfect. And guess what? That means the minute that things start to brown inside your fridge or the minute they've started to sit a little bit too long and they don't look like they're perfectly fresh, we start throwing them out. So it's the same thing, right? We're real quick to label people and tell people, you know what, you're not good enough because now you do this, this, and this, and that's all toxic. We're real quick to put a label out and be like, nope, you're damaged now, I can't be with you. But guess what? Every last one of us, and I want you to really hear this, every last one of us is damaged. We learned something in our childhood that carries on to this day and has become part of our habit system, right? And we're real quick to say, no, this is the way I am, take it or leave it, you better love me as I am, or else I'm not changing for nobody. Well, guess what? What if changing could be better for you? What if changing made your life easier? What if changing meant you felt less scared all the time? You didn't think things over and over and over, like overthink all the time. What if there was a way to get rid of that anxiety? What if there was a way to wake up without panic attacks? Because guess what? I used to wake up with panic attacks and they've started coming back all of a sudden, and I have to sit down and think about, okay, what is it that I'm worried about that I think I have no control over so I can manage that and not have the panic attack? As in prevention rather than cure, right? But why is it we don't always extend that courtesy? Why is it there is just this big gap between that generation and this? Why are we called the Raspberry Generation? Why are we, quick to cry out for help rather than to kind of figure it out for ourselves? Why is it that we're ready to throw things away rather than try and figure out how to make it work? Let's take, for example, that you're in a relationship with somebody, right? And they are mean and they are evil and they're very, very hurtful and they're critical of you. They have name-calling issues and they tend to show their temper and throw their weight around the house when they're upset, right? Yes, okay, we could label them as narcissistic. We could label them as chauvinistic. We could label them as whatever-istic, right? We could do that. Definitely could do that. But what would it take for you to sit down and ask that person, well, why do you react this way? What is it about the situation that hurts you so much? Where did that come from? Where did that first start? Why would that be so difficult to do? Because guess what? I just saw a list recently that said that, people are toxic and this kind of relationship is emotionally unsafe. But I have those tendencies too. I have a tendency when I'm really, really, really frustrated, and let's explain this very carefully. It takes a lot for me to get pissed off. But once I'm pissed off, I can't control my mouth. And I don't want to because I want you to see how pissed off I am, right? I do name call sometimes. I do become very sarcastic, right? My tongue can be very caustic. I can just say things that I really should not say, but I also know that once I say them, I can't take them back. I can give people the silent treatment. I can be abusive. I can be very violent, depending on the situation. And if you were able to bring that out of me, it means that you really, really, really triggered me. But does that mean that I'm so psychotic that I shouldn't be with somebody? Or does that mean that I have some issues that I probably need to learn how to speak about so that I can help you, help me, help us, so that we can maybe actually give this relationship a real chance? People come into a relationship with baggage. They know they're coming with baggage, and the first thing they want to do is unpack all the baggage and just say, hey, this is who I am, this is where I've been, this is all the things that hurt me, don't do any of that. But is that really possible? Like when I really sit down with somebody and they tell me, I've been with this ex and this is what happened and they threatened my life and blah, 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 and I feel for you, I really do. But that also means I'm going through my mind and saying, nope, I don't do that, I don't do that, I don't do that. Okay, yeah, we can be a great couple. But that's not how life works. The first couple of months, easy, honeymoon phase. I love you, you love me. We make time in the day to leave our regularly scheduled stuff and come see each other, spend time together, and then we go back home. We go back to our corners. And it's great for a while, right? Because it seems like we get along perfectly fine. But there are little things in those conversations that we're also avoiding. Little things that we don't really talk about until we have no choice but to talk about it. Why would I ever talk to you about my finances or ask you for help on my finances? Because that's not a first date conversation. And yes, there are protocols too, right? There are courtesies and cultural norms of how to go on a first date and to get to the second date, to get to the third date. How do you make yourself appealing enough for people to call you back and want to be around you? How do you make yourself pleasing? Oh, we're good at that, aren't we? But let's think about this. I am toxic when I'm in certain environments. I turn toxic, okay? And in some situations, you turn toxic. In some situations, children turn toxic, and they don't even know what toxic is yet. There are considerations to be made before we decide to throw someone out or to cut bait and run. There are some real red flags, and then there are some, you know what, it's not perfect, I'm just going to keep looking, that we need to consider as well. So when you look at your circle, when you look at your relationships, think about the problem child in your circle of people, okay? The one that you have the most amount of issues with. And let's think about, where do those issues come from? Is it something you say that really triggers them? Is it just one word that you say that, pisses people off? When we watch the movie Hancock, Hancock has a trigger word. It is the word asshole. And he goes, say asshole one more time, and he's going to go off. He's not going to hold any punches at that point. He turns completely toxic. But bottom line is, he's a decent human being. He really wants to help. He has his superpowers. He wants to generally take care of people. He has a crappy way of showing it because he's not learned yet how to co-regulate or self-regulate, so he does what he can, and then he brushes it off and says, yeah, you know what, I knew that people are like that though, so I'm just going to go over here and stick to myself. A lot of us are like that. We get hurt, we run off to our corner, and we tell the whole world about how everybody's been attacking us and against us and waiting for our demise and our downfall and all that stuff. But how much of that is actually true? If all of us are damaged, does that mean none of us get a chance at love and happiness? You've had those situations, right? You dated somebody and you thought you gave it your all and they were just not interested and they just kept fighting you, and some reason it just didn't work out. And then the next person they got with, oh my God, they're getting married. What the fuck? Like, I thought I paved the way for that person, right? That's because of me, right? Not necessarily. Maybe you guys were not a good match. Maybe they told you some things and you didn't take it to heart, or you thought you could overcome it somehow. You didn't really speak to them and understand where they were coming from to be able to help them work through their issues. You can't be in a relationship with somebody and avoid all the issues. There's no way that relationship works very well. Because if you're avoiding all the issues, they don't get a chance to grow, you don't get a chance to get to know the real them, and you're always wondering if they're hiding something from you. You're always wondering if they're being themselves around you, if you're there with them out of convenience to their schedule, to their needs. And that's not a way to live. That's fucking frustrating. It would drive me nuts. And I'm going to tell you too like this. My husband is not a bad person. My ex-husband is not a bad person. He's actually pretty damn smart when it comes to building businesses out of nothing. He's run clubs, he's done fashion shows, he's done, road work for, DJ Cool and all these celebrities and stuff. He's really good at what he does. He's a people person. He can organize events like I've never seen before. He used to do concerts. He used to do all kind of stuff. He's pretty handy with a car. He's very, very good at what he does. But what he's not able to do is deal with someone who is so calm all the time that he can't tell if I care or not. He's so used to drama that he can't deal with somebody who's calm. And I hate drama with such a passion, I will avoid it at all costs. You see? So, where you have those passionate relationships on screen where you'd rather be like, I would rather her yell at me and scream at me than be calm and not say anything and kind of take it in stride and manage. Yeah, well, that's not the environment I came from. And I'm avoiding those kinds of environment because they make me feel very unsafe. They make me feel like I could lose you at any moment. So guess what? I come from a place where people used to threaten whether they were going to love me or not, based on my behavior. And so when your primary caregivers make you feel like they could take their love away from you at any given moment, you're going to fight tooth and nail for any love you get throughout your life. Which means I'm going to give in because you are more important than whatever it is that I think that I need. At the time, I will make do. I've done it all my life. And for him, if you don't fight with me, if you don't yell at me, if you don't put your foot down and shake your neck and snap your fingers and all this stuff, you don't do that stuff, I don't think you love me. So if by his definition of love, right, I don't measure up, of course he's going to treat me some kind of way. He's decided that I don't love him. Instead of learning what my love languages are, and me, of course, doing the same, learning what his love languages are, right, we missed the boat on each other. We miscommunicated a lot. And it got to a point where there was no way I was going to be able to go back and fix it. Because how do we cross all those things that we came through now? He has narcissistic tendencies. Name a person who doesn't. I have narcissistic tendencies. I used to tell my mother, you know what? You had no role in my life. You left me be. You left me so many times. I learned to pick myself up on my own. You did not influence my life at all. I did all this by myself. You know how narcissistic that is? Because let's face it, if she hadn't left me all the time, I wouldn't have learned to pick myself up, and I wouldn't be able to stand before you today and be a supposed self-made person. I picked myself up, yes, but I only picked myself up because I had no other choice. She left me no other choice, but because of her, I will find a way. I am resourceful because of her negligence. And that's a really harsh word to say. It's not even negligence. It's her set of priorities overtook whatever it is that I needed at the time, and so she figured she's smart enough, she'll figure it out. I don't need to pay attention here. I need to pay attention on the second child instead. So you see what I'm saying? People are real quick to throw labels. People are real quick to say, oh no, he was damaged, she was damaged, everything was damaged. It's easier to say the other person was the problem. It's really hard to take a look at that mirror and say, I had a hand in that. If I had just figured this out, maybe it would have worked differently. But that's just me musing. It's just my understanding of the world around me at the moment. There are some really psychotic people out there. There are some people that are way beyond your own threshold, and yes, you got to cut bait and run. But I think, generally speaking, a lot of us do it because we don't want to deal with it, not because we can't. So I want you to really look at your circle and look at that problem child in your circle, because there is always one that you always get into a fight with somehow or another, and figure out what it is that y'all fight about. Because it's usually about the same kinds of things, right? There's a pattern there. Figure out the pattern. Go look at it. See if you can figure out why it triggers them, but they still hang around because they love you and you love them. Why do you fight about this one thing? What is it that's different between your belief system and theirs? The way you communicate and theirs? Because I guarantee you there is a strength in that you could figure out and help build that relationship even stronger. Because I don't know about you, I want battle-tested friendships around me. I don't want people that I have to pretend around just in case they might leave. Yeah, I will for a while because I want to see how far you'll stick it out with me, but ultimately, I want people where we've fought, we've gone with days without talking, but you still stood by me. You could have your back to me, you could be pissed off and fuming, but you're still going to stand by my side because we love each other like that. That's what I want. And in order to get to that place, you got to be willing to have a few fights. You got to be willing to have a few misunderstandings. You got to be willing to let each other go and let each other come back. And that's something I wish I could teach this generation. Don't keep cutting people off and blocking people because they said something that pissed you off. Have a conversation. Figure it out. Learn what it is that makes them tick and why it makes them tick that way. Where in their childhood did they learn that, you know what, this is the way I have to be in order for me to be happy? Because I guarantee you, once you get to know them, like really know them, there's no end to their compassion, and there is a way where you can really make sure that they thrive and overcome some of those difficulties that they find in life because of your strength and your stability. You know what I'm saying? All right, you guys, I'll catch you later. Bye.